Hey everyone, today we're going to break down something pretty wild. How one single political statement managed to put a $300 billion trade relationship on thin ice, seemingly overnight. If you do any kind of business in Asia, you absolutely need to understand how fast politics and history can blow up into massive economic risk. So let's dive right in.
So it all really comes down to this one question, doesn't it? How on earth can a single sentence threaten to unravel decades of economic partnership? A partnership worth over $300 billion a year. It sounds a bit dramatic, but as we're about to see, this is exactly what went down.
And just look at how fast this all happened. On November 7th, you have the Prime Minister's statement. The very next day, boom, a formal protest from China. Not even a week later, travel warnings go out. By day 12, a major import is just cut off. And by day 13, you're seeing a very public, very intentional snub at the G20. I mean, the speed of this escalation is just staggering, and it's a huge warning sign of how volatile these things can get.
Okay, so to really understand this explosive reaction, we can't just look at what happened in those 2 weeks in November. We've got to dig a lot deeper, right down to the very foundation of the modern relationship between China and Japan.
And what's really fascinating is that since way back in 1972, this entire complex relationship has been built on these four key political documents. You could almost think of them as the constitution between the two countries. And they all share this one very clear, very explicit understanding on a particularly sensitive issue. And this is the sentence that lit the fuse. For the very first time, a sitting Japanese prime minister explicitly said that a conflict over Taiwan could be viewed as an existential crisis for Japan itself. Now, that directly implies the possibility of Japanese military intervention. It was a massive statement.
And this right here really lays out the core of the conflict. On one side, you have half a century of diplomacy built on Japan acknowledging that Taiwan is part of China. But on the other side, you have this new statement that suggests Japan might get militarily involved. So for Beijing, this wasn't just some political mistake. It was seen as a betrayal of the entire foundation of their relationship.
But this isn't just about political documents. It's also about memory, about history. And to really, truly get the depth of China's reaction, you have to wrap your head around this number. Over 35 million.
That number? That's the estimated total of Chinese casualties from the Second Sino-Japanese War. I mean, the human loss, the economic devastation, it was just immense. This isn't just a paragraph in a history book. For China, it's a very deep, very real national trauma. And it's the incredibly sensitive backdrop to any modern political or military statement that comes out of Japan. So how did China respond? Well, what we saw next wasn't some chaotic emotional outburst. No, not at all. It was a systematic, multi-front, and highly coordinated playbook put into action. Just look at how this unfolds. First, you've got the foreign ministry handling the official diplomatic stuff. Then, the tourism and education ministries jump in, targeting those people-to-people connections, which led to 500,000 flight cancellations in just a matter of days. And finally, the commerce ministry hits a very specific, very symbolic part of their trade. It's a classic whole-of-government approach, and it's designed to squeeze from every possible angle.
Now, publicly, the language you heard from the foreign ministry was very formal, very stern. It was all focused on that political foundation we just talked about. This is the official message they want the rest of the world to hear.
But while the official message was all formal and diplomatic, the unofficial one was something else entirely. This is a perfect example of that two-track approach. Look at the kind of imagery that military-linked social media accounts were putting out. It is visceral. It's designed to stir up historical fears of Japanese militarism, and it sends a much, much harder message straight to the Chinese people.
And of course, this messaging was backed up by some very real action. We saw naval patrols, announcements of live fire drills, and coordinated combat-ready statements from every single one of their military commands. This wasn't just talk. This was a clear show of military resolve designed to make sure Tokyo was paying attention.
So all of this brings us right to the core dilemma of the whole crisis. It's this massive, head-on collision between political grandstanding and the deep, undeniable reality of economic partnership.
And truly understanding this clash between politics and economics is absolutely essential for anyone working in this space. Know China to do better business. You'll save time and money with expert insights on China trade and investment. Welcome to our channel, Trade with China.
Now, let's look at the sheer scale of what was at stake. In 2024, the two-way trade between them was over 308 times $1 billion.
China is Japan's biggest trading partner, by far. This economic relationship isn't just big, it's absolutely colossal, and all of it was suddenly at risk.
Let's make that even more concrete. Take one of Japan's top car companies, a brand everyone knows. A full 30% of its entire global revenue comes from the China market. For these iconic Japanese corporations, China isn't just a nice bonus, it's a fundamental part of their entire business model.
And that is exactly why Japan's most powerful business group, Ren, reacted with such alarm. Their leader basically said, look, for Japanese businesses, this isn't about politics, this is about pure survival. They were essentially begging for a de-escalation.
All right, so let's pull back and look at the big picture. We've walked through the crisis, the history, and the response. What are the crucial lessons here for anyone involved in global trade and investment? What does this all mean for you?
Okay, so here are the key takeaways. First, history is never just in the past, it's like a live wire running just beneath the surface of modern politics. Second, words have serious weight and can trigger immediate, severe economic consequences. Third, always watch for the playbook. China's response is coordinated and it comes from all sides. Fourth, and this is a big one, deep economic ties are a buffer for sure, but they are not a foolproof shield. And finally, never ever forget the US factor. The entire stability of the region is tied up in the state of US-China relations.
And that leaves us with the ultimate multi-billion-dollar question, doesn't it? In an age of rising nationalism, can a massive economic partnership like this one really withstand the crushing weight of history and geopolitics?
Answering that question requires deep, practical knowledge. And honestly, that's what we're here for, to bring you insights to help you navigate the business, the investment, and the culture of trade with China. And by the way, your comments really do encourage us and help us figure out what kind of information is most useful to you.
So if you found this breakdown valuable, please hit that like button and subscribe now for more actionable insights and win-win solutions. Don't miss out on the chance to better understand and succeed in your trade with China. Thanks for watching.